The Conjuring, a reimagined scary story. The farmhouse sat on a lonely rise of land, the kind of place you wouldn't notice unless you were lost or desperate. Weather-beaten boards hung like peeling scabs, and the windows sagged inward as if the house itself had grown tired of watching the world. When the Perrin family moved in, they didn't think much about the uneasy silence or the way the wind seemed to hold its breath near the trees. They needed a fresh start, and hope has a way of disguising warnings as harmless quirks. The first night was calm enough, though the family dog refused to step over the threshold. She barked at the doorway, hackles raised, then ran to the edge of the yard and sat with her eyes trained on the house as if guarding the family from the outside. Roger and Carolyn, already exhausted from the move, chalked it up to stress. Kids and animals, they reasoned, react strangely to new places. But the house began whispering its secrets quickly. It started with the clocks. Every one of them old wind-ups, wristwatches, alarm clocks stopped at precisely 3:07 a.m. Not a minute before or after. Carolyn joked about a power surge, though wind-ups didn't rely on electricity. Roger dismissed it entirely, because confronting the unexplainable is harder than pretending it isn't there. The children were the next to notice. Their sleep grew restless, punctuated by slow creaks traveling across the ceiling. Sometimes they woke to the feeling of someone tugging gently at their feet. The youngest, April, insisted she had made a friend named Rory who liked to hide in corners or stand behind doors where the light never fully reached. She talked to him as if he were real, and perhaps to her, he was. One evening, Carolyn was folding laundry when she noticed a bruise blooming on her arm. She hadn't bumped into anything, but she assumed she had simply forgotten the cause. Then another appeared the next day. And another. Dark, finger-shaped marks she tried to ignore. But the house wasn't satisfied with small warnings. One night, around the cursed hour of 3:07, Carolyn woke to the sound of two sharp claps echoing through the hall. Her breath caught in her throat. She sat up, listening, waiting. The air felt thick, too heavy, too cold. She stood, creeping toward the sound, feeling the floorboards groan beneath her like wounded bones. At the end of the hallway, the shadows seemed to lurch and swirl, forming something almost human. "Who's there?" she whispered. The shape dissolved into the dark. But the clap rang out again, this time behind her. The next morning, shaken and pale, Carolyn looked at her husband with pleading eyes. Roger saw the fear and couldn't dismiss it anymore. He agreed they needed help, real help. Someone who understood what fear looked like when it seeped beneath the skin and clawed at the mind. That's when they contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren. When the Warrens arrived, the house seemed to shrink in on itself, as if recognizing them. Lorraine paused at the doorway, her eyes widening, breath shallow. "Something doesn't want us here," she murmured. Ed began inspecting the home, searching for rational explanations, faulty wiring, loose boards, drafts. But rationality only goes so far in a house that breathes coldness and stares back at you. The Warrens listened to every detail, every bruise, every whisper through the walls. After hours of observation, Lorraine finally spoke the truth aloud. "There is something dark here. Something old. And it has latched onto your family." They learned about the land, how it once belonged to a woman steeped in occult practices, a woman who had taken her own life after cursing anyone who dared steal her home. Over the decades, families came and went, each one haunted by tragedies that were never quite explained. Night after night, the entity grew bolder. Doors slammed with violent strength. Rotten odors seeped into rooms without warning. The children woke screaming to unseen hands pulling their blankets away. And Carolyn, once vibrant and warm, grew gaunt and hollow-eyed, as if something were draining her from the inside. During a nighttime investigation, the Warrens set up cameras and audio equipment, hoping to capture evidence strong enough to justify an exorcism. But the house refused to be studied quietly. At 3:07 a.m., the temperature plummeted. The basement door shuddered slowly at first, then violently, slamming open with a roar that shook the entire house. Lorraine felt a force push past her, cold and hateful. The entity wasn't hiding anymore. Carolyn screamed from upstairs. They found her in the children's room, her body contorted as if pulled by invisible ropes, her hair twisting in jerks that had no human cause. The children scrambled to the hallway, crying, terrified. Ed grabbed Carolyn, shouting her name, trying to anchor her to reality. But the entity spoke through her then, its voice a guttural, ancient growl. "She is mine." Those words seemed to poison the air. Realizing that waiting for approval from the church would mean losing Carolyn entirely, Ed made a choice. He began the exorcism himself. Lorraine clasped Carolyn's face, whispering words meant to pull her spirit back from the edge, reminding her of her children, her life, her love. But the entity fought like something feral and desperate. The room rattled. Furniture toppled. The lights stuttered. A presence pressed down on every person in that room, thick, predatory, suffocating. Carolyn's screams shifted between her own voice and something monstrous. Ed continued, shouting the rites over the chaos. Each phrase pushed the entity back, inch by inch, until Carolyn's body convulsed one final time. Then silence. The air warmed. The pressure lifted. Carolyn collapsed into Lorraine's arms, sobbing with exhaustion. The house had grown quiet, not because it was watching, but because it had finally released what it held. The Warrens advised the family to move, to give themselves space to heal. The Perrons left with relief heavy in their chests, but gratitude, too. What had happened inside those old walls would never fully fade, but they had survived it. And the house? It still stands. People say you can feel a presence if you walk too close. Others swear they've seen a figure lingering in the upstairs window, watching, waiting, remembering. Because homes with memories that dark rarely sleep forever.